Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. I want Today we're going to go over something more regarding project management. So while bidding accurately is a critical first step, today we will explore how upfront planning allows you to work smarter and ensure that the job goes well. We'll show you how to organize your takeoff so your project manager will thank you, and how to effectively manage your change orders to maintain profit on the job. And Brian will go through that and kind of pick that apart and give you some good ideas. So first, I wanted to mention that if you're in YouTube, that you can chat us questions or comments if you're logged in over on the right side. So feel free to join in, and we'll try to answer any questions you have. But hey, Brian, want to take it over?
I'm ready. Good morning, everybody. Um, this webinar topic came about because of the number of times I work with project managers and estimators, and I get a lot of feedback and I get a lot of input on what they need for their job. So we wanted to talk about the different roles and actually when the roles are even kind of combined. So it's in my mind, it's probably the most important part of running an electrical contracting business. You got to have solid estimates, and then it's not just a matter of winning the bid. Now you've got to make money at it. That's where the project manager comes into play, and sometimes they're the same person. So
Mm.
that's kind of the first question. Which one are you? Are you the project manager, and that's your primary or sole responsibility? I work with a lot of those people. They use the estimating program for change orders, or they get in and help on bids. Or are you just an estimator? That's your only role. Now, rarely do people have just those responsibilities. Take, for example, the owner of a small company. That person is not only going to be the estimator, they're going to be the project manager, and those are just two of the very important hats they wear. But even in very large companies, we have a lot of users who are hybrid. They do both project management, they do estimating, and maybe it's 10% one and 90% the other, or vice versa. But it's almost impossible to totally separate the roles. And like Derek said, one of the things we want to talk about is how the estimator can help prepare the estimate for the project manager, and then what the project manager can do with the information from the job to run it profitably. So one of the first things that comes into play is how you can organize your takeoff for the project manager. Now, the lucky thing is here is that EBM automatically organizes the job by what we call the phase or the cost code. So basically, it groups all the materials into the similar categories. It groups all the branch wire separate from the feeder wire, separate from the lighting, separate from the trim or the device uh, trim. So in EBM, it looks like this.
Hey, give some background real quick, Brian, on EBM.
Okay, so Electrical Bid Manager is Vision's estimating program, and I spend a good portion of my time training people on how to use it. So this is one of the things we cover quite a bit. So when you do an estimate on EBM, it automatically groups your takeoff. You don't have to do anything besides input your quantities of your assemblies. And then it breaks all the parts down into these different categories. We call them phases. A lot of people call them cost codes because this is the best way to track your job so that you can get a complete breakdown of each of those categories. Again, it comes out automatically. You can see the different categories here. We have underground feeder raceway, above ground feeder raceway, above ground branch raceway, etc. And then when you get to the final reports here in job totals, you can go right here under labor and get the total amount of hours for each of those phases. So this is what most people track. You know, now the other place that comes into mind or comes into play is when you start the job and you need to know your man hours. We'll come back to that a little bit later. I want to also show you how the program automatically organizes your takeoff by the page. Now, electrical uh, drawings are typically organized into kind of meaningful pages. Like you'll have one page for the lighting or several pages for the lighting, and then you'll have separate pages for the branch power. You usually have separate pages for any site work, for any, usually for the panel schedules, the lighting schedules. That's all organized by page. So when you're in EBM, let me just pick up another job here real quickly. Let's do this one here. This is a pretty complete job. It's got site work, it's got lighting, it's got uh, switch gear, feeders, etc. So when we go to the reports here, we can tell it to organize by the pages. But now we can pull up one page or we can pull up all the pages, but it's going to give you a breakdown automatically. Again, I didn't do anything besides do the takeoff electronically. We use PlanSwift to do our electronic takeoff. So these page numbers get put in automatically. And then what you see on the extensions again is all these breakdowns. The first one is the E101 page. If I scroll down here a little bit, you'll see the next page. 201 in this job was the lighting, 301 is the power. So again, when we go to job totals, we can look at it a couple different ways. Again, I can just go look at the labor. Gives me the labor per page. I can look at the material per page. E101, E201, etc. Or I can go to this print details report. And again, it'll break it down into subtotals by page. Again, this happens automatically. You don't have to organize it. You don't have to tell it how to group it. So if everything on the power is on E201, you'll get a breakdown right there. There's the total material. Go to the next page. We'll see the total labor for E201. So that's really, again, it's automatic within our electrical bid manager program. If you're doing electronic takeoff, it'll organize it by the page it came from on the drawings. Now, over and above that, you may want to organize the job by area. Maybe it's different floors, maybe it's different buildings, maybe it's just different areas on the project. One of the examples exercises I do quite often is taking off a hotel. So let me show you that one real quick. There's my little sample hotel. So on this takeoff, we set it up to have one area called the common area, you know, the lobby, the corridors, and all that. Let me just show you how it looks here. Actually, let me show you the audit trail here first. So these are all the entries. So if I go to this entry here, which is 30 amp disconnect, that was for the standard room. If I go down here further, here's some wall mounted occupancy sensors. It shows you these were put into an alternate. They were also in the suite. But again, if we're breaking it down by area, which is what we're going to do here in the job extension, here's the common area, here's the standard rooms, and here's the suite. And I've also put multipliers on it. I don't want to get too far off topic here, but I've told it there's 90 standard rooms and 10 suites and just one common area. So again, when I go to the number crunching here, it gives me everything multiplied out by the different areas. Here's the common area. And if we scroll down a ways, you'll see a total on the common area. That's the total material. That's the total labor. Then it does the same thing for a standard room, the same thing for the suite. And then down at the bottom, again, it gives you the totals. So when we go to job totals, I didn't put my fixture quote in yet. It's reminding me. But I can go to this print details again. And it's going to give me the totals by, in this job, I set it up by area. You can do the same thing with an alternate. You can break out an alternate. You can do all these things kind of simultaneously. I can have a job, excuse me, with different areas like the common area in the different rooms, but I could also have a breakout for an adder for some kind of alternate that they're looking for. So lots of options there on how you organize the bid. You can put in alternates. They can be additive or deductive. You can break out areas. And again, the phases and the cost codes, are the phases and the pages are automatic. And that is absolutely valuable information to the project manager. I've seen so many times where a company bids a job, we won the job, and okay, Dave, go run the job. and maybe they'll have a little meeting to discuss it, but they really won't dig down and dig into the estimate. The estimate is your best friend at that point for helping the project manager organize his material, organize his labor, etc. So the estimate has your manpower projections, not only for the entire job, but however you broke it out. So if you broke it out by phase, like we did in that first example, it'll tell me how many hours we got budgeted for lighting, how many hours we got budgeted for underground, how many hours we got budgeted for feeder wire. Those will all be right there in the summary here. Let me go back to that original job because it's a little better example in this case. That's the sample commercial. Nope. There we go. So if I need to see the hours broken out by phase, I just click this right here where it says direct labor. And again, I showed you the screen already, but it shows you how many hours I've got budgeted for these different categories. So if we're looking to get started in lighting, we know we've got almost 100 hours budgeted. That's going to give me a real good idea how many electricians I need, given how many days we want to use to get it done. But we've got 100 hours. So again, that's exactly what a project manager needs. Now, labor tracking, I think, is maybe the most important long-term, one of the most important long-term parts of your business. If you just look at the end of the job and say we had 2,000 hours and we used 1,800 or 2,800, that's better than not knowing. But if you can break it down into these categories, then you start to get an idea, where are we good, where are we needing to do a better job. Sometimes it's a matter of training the electricians how to record to the right category, but you really want to be able to compare the estimated hours versus the actual hours in the field. Okay, I'm going to change gears just a little bit here. I'm going to talk about change orders because change orders are very often, very often part of the responsibility of the project manager. Sometimes it could be the estimator. Again, it could be both. And change orders fall into two categories. They fall into the category of getting an estimate done for the change order before the work is done, or coming up with a bill for the customer after the work is actually done. So if you're going to do an estimate on the change order, you're going to use the estimating program just like you would to do a regular estimate. Now, there are some things we can do to help us make money. We'll talk about that in a minute. And again, there's after the fact change orders, which normally kind of fall into the area of a time and material job. We've already done the job. We already know how many hours it took. We do need to come up with a total amount of material. We don't have to itemize it for the customer though. When you go back to the original premise where we're doing it before the fact, they might want to know, how much, uh, what the specific materials are you're going to be using in the change order. So again, it's kind of a before and after. Uh, when you're doing the change order before it's been approved, it's an estimate, and we've got to provide enough information to the owner, the general contractor, to get an approval. If we've already done the work, then we need to provide the reports and details, as much detail as they need to approve the change order. And again, whether you're using the estimating program, you can give them or the time and material program, you can give them no details, just give them the total. It's $2,500 for that extra. You can give them limited detail. And let me show you how we do this in the T&M program though. I forgot to start that up. We'll do it real quick. This is just a quick little example of a change order. So here's the materials that we use in the change order. Here's the hours. When we go to print this, we can either give them the grand total only, like I was talking about, and it just says, here's the total for the change order. Now, that's probably not what most of your customers want. They're going to maybe want some level of detail, especially if you've already done the work and now you're asking to get paid. So we'll go back and show you a couple other quick options. We can do subtotals only, and what that does is give us a breakdown of the total material, total labor, and then the grand total. Or we can give them all the detail. So that one we just hit all prices and totals. And there's some variations on both of those. But again, now you can see the change orders broken out into the material totals itemized, labor's itemized, and then the grand total at the bottom. So that's really where computers and software like this is not only valuable because of the time you save to do it versus trying to do it by hand. I can't even imagine that.
Hmm.
But you can also make more money because of the options you have and the way you present the reports. So when you're doing a change order, you have two options, and then you can do some variations on that for the material. In EBM and our Epic pricing system, we call the lowest price the target price. The target price is basically pretty close to what you would buy your materials for at a wholesaler. So when you're doing an estimate, most of the time you're going to use the target price and then you mark it up at the end. When you're doing a change order, you might use the target price. You might use the target price with a factor. You can tell it to add 35% automatically, and you don't even have to show that to the customer. Or you could use what we call the trade price. The trade price is like a established list or retail price. Now, again, depending on your customer, that may or may not be a viable option, but uh, customers typically don't always expect to get your best price on a change order. They know that you're going to need to get a little more markup somewhere, either in building it into the material or the labor. Now, on the labor in the EBM, Electrical Bid Manager program, we have a labor column we call column 3. That's the highest number in the system, which is actually out of the NECA labor manual. If you haven't heard of the NECA labor manual, it's a manual, I think it's about 600 pages of electrical materials with labor units. And they're widely accepted for change orders. Now, you wouldn't bid too many jobs with that unless you didn't have any competition. You wouldn't be getting much work, but it is well established for change orders. We call it in our EBM system column 3. It comes out of the NECA labor manual column 1. You could actually get column 2 and column 3 just by adding 25% or 50%. That's how they do it in the NECA labor manual. They just add a percentage. That's how they get NECA 1, 2, and 3. And in the NECA labor manual, they call it standard, difficult, and very difficult.
Hmm.
That's what NECA calls 1, 2, and 3. These are just kind of things you always want to keep in mind about change orders is to get approval before the work is started if you can, and get it signed off upon completion. Have somebody sign off that you did the work. Now, even if it wasn't approved, get somebody to sign off that you added 2 new plugs in the corridor. Now, the reason for that is even though they may not pay you for it, it's something you've got to use to negotiate because inevitably at the end of the job, when you're coming across, here's all the things that we need to finalize. Well, we added this, we took out that, we don't like what you did on this. The general contractor tells you, well, the more things you've got that you did without getting paid or that maybe you should have gotten paid for, that gives you a much better negotiating position when you're trying to finalize the job, what they call the punch list. On big jobs, you could have, pages of punch list items that have to be finalized. Did you get approval for that? Are we going to approve that amount? Did it get done? Did it get done right? And this goes a little side story. When I worked for my dad several times over the years, I always remember that one of his pet peeves was giving away extra work. Now, the electricians were kind of trying to just be the good guy and facilitate getting things done. They don't stop and think, well, that's time that I'm getting paid for as an electrician, but my boss, my company isn't. So never give it away. Even if you're not going to get paid for it, at least get somebody to sign off that you did the extra work. And then that can always be worked out at the end when you're looking at all the things that uh, have to be finalized to bill out the final job.
So Brian, that sounds like something the TNM software's mobile app could help you track.
Absolutely, yeah. Um, so instead of just recording the material and labor on a piece of paper that may or may not ever get turned in. We have a mobile app that links with our time and material billing program, and the electrician can bring it up and just punch in the amount of footage of conduit or wire, how many boxes that were used, how many feet of wire, and their hours. They can record it by the day and all that. So all that information can be recorded on an app, mobile in the field,
And signed off by,
and exactly
it
signed
takes a
off. There's a place
signature.
to
Yeah.
sign off on the mobile app, just like you sign a electronic screen these days for just about everything you purchase at restaurants and all that. Getting that signature is a nice little bit of help when you come to getting paid. Well, you signed off, you know. Did we have any other questions, Derek?
Nope, no questions yet. If you have any questions, feel free to chat them. But for now, I'm going to just mention our YouTube page here that you're more than likely on watching this now. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. If you subscribe, you'll get an email alert when we do this again and when we post new videos. And if you like it, it just helps us grow and get out in front of more electricians because it feeds the algorithm.
And of course, you can always go to our webpage if you want information on our products, if you want information on our training. We kind of have three different levels. We have what we call online web-based classroom training, where you could be in a classroom online with anywhere from 2 to half a dozen other people. Those are kind of structured classes. We have an introductory class and we have an extended training class. Those are about 3 to 3.5 hour classes. We also do a lot of one-on-one training online. You can take off a whole job with me. It can be a job that we provide or a job that you provide, and we can do those in pretty much any segments of hours, 2 hours, 6 hours. We can break it up however you want. So if that's something you might be interested in, we can discuss some options. And then I also do a lot of on-site training. I just got back from a trip to chilly Kansas City, where I worked for 2 days with one of our customers who is growing fast and bringing in a new estimator, and wanted to get a little more training on his own. Inevitably, when I go to work with somebody who's had the program and self-taught themselves, uh, at least a half a dozen times a day, I'm going to hear, "Oh, gee, I wish I knew how to do that easier earlier." And you know, there's uh, I tend to be one of those hard-headed people who tries to self-train themselves. But if you don't have somebody at least show you some of the shortcuts and bells and whistles, you might not ever stumble on them. So those are always very valuable training sessions. Not only
Yeah.
getting somebody trained that's brand new to the program, but also maybe giving the existing users a little bit extra help with shortcuts and advanced features. So
There-
you need,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say there's also inside of EBM, Electrical Bid Manager, there's help videos. And we've added help video buttons to many of the windows that Brian has created, and he gives some light instruction and tips on many of the functions of EBM.
You'll see that button down here. It says help video. So no matter where you are in the program, is there one on the audit trail? Probably not, but
I don't think so.
most of them are on the takeoff module. So if I go into fixtures here, there'll be
There
a
should
help.
be one. We need to make
There'll be a
one.
help video right over here at the right.
Yeah.
And then you can also go up to help and go to help videos right there. And here's the list of all the videos. Now, the nice thing is these are all pretty short.
Mhm.
You don't have to sit through a 15, 30-minute instruction. It'll give you just the information you need to set up a job, set up your program. There is a video here on job extensions, how to take off a feeder. So even if you've gone through the training and you just need a little bit of quick review, you can pull up one of these help videos, and they're pretty short and painless.
Yeah, it helps reinforce the training
Yep.
100% because you absorb only so much when you get trained. You learn a lot, but it's good to have some reinforcement to back it up. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here. Oh, we got one. Is there a way to email with T&M the signed ticket to the customer? Some of my customers require a copy at time of signing. I can answer this, and Brian, you might offer a little extra. So the T&M comes back from the app with the signature, and then you can produce a PDF file that has the signature on it with
Right.
T&M, and you can email that PDF file.
A little sample job here was just one I created in the program, but like Derek said again, when it comes back from the electrician in the field, if there's a signature, that'll be part of what comes back in, and that'll be part of what you print out for the customer. Matter of fact, when you go to print it, there's an option here to uh, print the signature. Now, I didn't capture the signature in this, so it's grayed out. But if I had captured the signature with the mobile application, there'd be a little box I could check there to show the signature
Yep.
on the invoice.
Yep.
So the answer to
All
that
right.
question is
Good
yes.
question. Yes. Good question. All right. Feel free to send any other questions you have to us. You can email us at sales@visioninfosoft.com. Or if you are a current customer and you have a question, please email us at support@visioninfosoft.com, and our support department would be happy to answer any questions for you. The field tech can't send it directly to the customer. No, not right now. They can't, unfortunately. Trying to think if there was a way that we had to email it, but no, it needs to be currently it needs to be approved by the office. It needs to be it comes in to an inbox in our T&M software that someone at the office would then look at and approve.
I guess if they had the T&M program on a laptop, then
Yeah,
they could send it directly from there.
yeah, they could.
It's not unusual these days to have a laptop in the field.
It is a feature request, though. I'll note that.
Uh-huh.
I could see it making sense. It just wouldn't be finalized. It would be, well, here we are talking about going into the details of creating a new feature, but there's so many things to consider because some companies won't want their field techs emailing out or texting or sending anything out without the back office approving first, but other companies are okay with it, and that makes sense. And we would need to have a setting added that would allow the T&M desktop software to offer that feature. So I'll note that. It does. I could see it makes sense to be able to do it from the field with the mobile app.
There are other issues that come up too. They use some special items, maybe a special time clock, a special dimmer, and even though they've recorded it, somebody in the office may have to look it up to get the actual
Yeah.
price you're going to charge the customer because it's not a standard item. So
Right.
you really kind of need that interplay or interchange with your office person who's going to take care of that for you.
Yeah, we found that our customers use our T&M software and the mobile app in all different ways. And oftentimes when we get feature requests, we can't just add a simple function that would does something because then there's a ton of other companies out there that are like, hey, I don't want my field techs being able to do that. It's like, oh yeah. We need to think through all the different options we need to include. But thanks it was a good question. All right, thanks, Ken. Ken had something nice to say about our webinar. And for anyone else still watching, we have dozens, probably 60 or so videos that we've created over the last few years. A lot of them are a little more like educational training, just general estimating tips and tricks and whatnot. Some of them go into using our software a little bit more, but search, you can go to our channel that you're kind of already on and do a search on our channel only and find a whole assortment of videos. We try to curate them and organize them. So if you look on our channel, there'll be different sections as you scroll down and you could scroll through them, but have a look. All right, we have another question here. Let's see. When manually putting in takeoff, we don't utilize Plan Swift. How can we label phases and sections to make everything more organized at the end when looking over the audit trail?
So when you're doing your takeoff,
Oops.
you see up at the top right here, you see the sections, breakdowns, and divisions. You can name those. Let me go back to the job where I did that. Again, you can do it manually. You don't have to have the be using Plan Swift. Now you can't, if you're going to take it off by page number, you'd have to actually put that in as a page when you're doing the takeoff. These four are all kind of the same or the same functionality.
Mhm.
I can record any entry by the drawing reference, the page, and we also have sections, breakdowns, and divisions. Again, let me go back to that job that I used the different sections and breakdowns, which is this one. And you could do that kind of on the fly, like if I'm taking off some devices here. Up at the top right, you'll see the different areas that I set up for this job, the common area, the standard room, and the suite. And then I also broke down this job into a base bid and an alternate. I didn't use the third level, and I don't have to use the page number. Now, you can do that on the fly. You can see here I can add and change things, or I can do it at the very beginning when I set up the job, which is really the proper place to do it. When you're setting up the job under job settings, you can set up your sections, your breakdowns, and then just do your takeoff according to those. And again, you can set up the page numbers manually. If you're using Plan Swift puts them in automatically. And like Derek said, there's a video on that. It's under help videos. That's going to be under advanced topics, under breakouts. Gives you some examples of how to break out a job like that.
Yeah, some of the help videos, the only way to get to them is through this menu system.
That's probably one of them, yeah.
Yeah, and these videos, when you go to them, are in a playlist on YouTube, and when you go to view the video, you could see all the other video options listed, because we do utilize YouTube for this as well, the help videos. But I don't think you could search YouTube for them because they're unlisted. We don't have them like where the general public could just happen upon a help video. So you have
I think
to.
that question sounded like it came from a EBM user, though.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree. All right. Yeah, a lot of customers want a signed copy to compare the list of material and labor at time of signing to the priced invoice when they receive it, just like the old. Yeah, okay. I could see that. That supports the feature request. This is not probably the best way of doing it, but depending on how many items and labor you add, you could do a screenshot of the summary page and text it or email the screenshot as in a pinch. I don't think that's going to make very many people happy, but it's a thought I just had while we look into adding that feature. I see what you're saying. That makes sense. Yeah. Thanks, Carson. He gave T&M a thumbs up. All right.
I bet he's talking about residential mostly, because that's where you need to be able to get the amount you're going to bill the customer before you leave the job site. In commercial work, that doesn't typically happen. You send the owner, the general contractor, you send them a bill. They don't expect you to finalize that on the job site as often.
Yeah,
they definitely do.
It's different in all different regions, I feel, when it comes to service work for commercial service work. But I think in general, you're right. Yeah. But all right. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Thank you. Bye now.